After 1700, slavery became based upon race completely. White was free, black was slave. That was the clear implication of the Virginia Slave Code and the way slavery had developed in South Carolina. The color difference became fixed, and it also helped to make the system enforceable because the color of the slaves made them stand out, and so they could be captured if they tried to escape. And so the system worked in upon itself. It had interlocking ways of supporting itself. It came to be taken for granted that blacks should be slaves and whites should be free, even whites who were indentured servants and apprentices, because that went on for until the American Revolution, really. You still had some indentured servants in America, and apprenticeship was a fairly common practice, but you would graduate from apprenticeship at 21. So they knew that whites would eventually become free, but slaves wouldn't. Black people were meant to be slaves. That was the concept from usage that went on for generations after 1700, right up through the American Revolution. The slavery that developed differed from pre-modern slavery in two ways. One, it was racial, right? We hadn't seen racial slavery before in history. And two, well, to add something to that, let me explain a little more. People had been held in slavery mostly because they were captured in warfare. Very often they were people who had a different religion than others, and those were most often the motives for enslaving people. The second reason, other than that it was racial, was that it converted the slave into private property, into a commodity that could be sold on the market with no rights whatsoever. And so this was different. In a pre-modern society, even slaves, everyone, it was a very hierarchical society, but everybody had certain rights and certain protections. In this new modern era of converting the slave to private property, the slave literally had no real rights. In the decades after the Revolution, slavery's protection as a private property would come into growing conflict with the concept of human rights. Human rights, and the natural rights that they speak of in the Declaration of Independence, would come into conflict with property rights. And so we're going to see that conflict work itself out all the way up through the American Revolution.